right. Well, fun times with technology. We actually got through a whole bunch of this, and I was not pressing record because genius. So I am here with Kimberlea Lemon, and we had talked earlier about how to feed yourself, because we had done a whole interview before, because Kimberlea is an occupational therapist. So I have convinced her to be incredibly kind and generous and keep coming back on the podcast to help those of us who cannot get to an occupational therapist with some general ideas. So I thought the first thing we should talk about is how to eat and feed yourself, because that is an important part of everyone's daily life, and it can often be the most challenging. I'm just going to put this out here. We all come from different privilege levels, different economic levels, different places in the world on where certain things are available. So we are talking very generally. If you have things that work for you at different spaces, different things that you are dealing with, please comment below, because we are all fascinated about how we can make everything better, and what you have to say can really help someone else out. So if you can be generous enough to comment below, that would be amazing. All right, so you did a ton of research for me. What have you found? You have ME and fibromyalgia. I have Ehlers Danlos and POTS. So we both have things that make standing and shopping hard. What are you doing?
Starting right at the start and actually looking at what you're eating and deciding what you're going to eat. I really struggled with it was just sort of processing. Like, it would be coming up to dinner time and I'd be like, I have a full cupboard of food, but how do I actually put all those ingredients together to make something? So sometimes just the processing in the brain's not there to do even just a simple task. So what I did, and what I do recommend people do, is have a collection of recipes ready to go. I actually typed mine up on the computer and had recipe cards. And so these were simple meals that I could make, that I could buy the ingredients for, without actually having to do all that planning each week. And that sort of cut down on a lot of the thought processes of what am I going to buy at the supermarket? Because you pick your recipes, you list down the ingredients that you need, just cuts out some of that task.
I'm sorry, I'm being stalked right now by a pug. So anyone who's hearing snorting, I am so sorry. I can't get to my door to escort her out. I cannot stand right now. So I'm really sorry, everyone. You will hear snorting. There's just nothing I can do about that.
So cute.
It's life here.
Yep. What I've been doing recently, and it depends on if it's something that's available to you, is the pre-prepared meal boxes. So we do have Hello Fresh here, which I understand is available over there. And it's where you just purchase the boxes, they post it to you, courier it to you, and the recipes, the food, everything's all there, all done. So I've gone in that direction at the moment. It just saved a lot of time. So it saved me a lot of shopping time and a lot of my planning time, so I could focus on things that were actually more important to me than that side of things.
I wish that they would do a program for people who are on disability, because I love HelloFresh. I can't afford HelloFresh. So it'd be so amazing if they would do a subsidized program to be able to help out those who are older or on disability. It is such a great program.
That would be amazing. It's just such a good idea, because it just frees up people's time and it gives them nutritious meals to eat.
And there you have another big point is you're not just deciding what to eat. You're also, if you're sick, you might have allergies, food sensitivities. It can be very expensive to feed yourself when you're trying to wrangle all of those things. So I've used the meal preparedness things at Trader Joe's, which you still have to get to Trader Joe's, but they are cheaper.
Great. And that's giving you some ideas and a list of ingredients as well to buy.
It's distracting. I know. I'm so sorry. It's kind of adorable and insane all at once.
So cute.
So yeah, I would love for more companies like HelloFresh to have like that sort of sideline. What are some of the other things that you're able to use? You talked about like the keeping decision fatigue at bay by having the preparedness, which I love that. I use Pinterest for that. I don't know if you use Pinterest, but I have a week list of everything I want to do in the week, including meal plan.
Oh, amazing. So planning ahead like that will help with that sort of brain fog and that decision fatigue. So you're not having to think at the time, oh, did I need butter or do I have butter? So making lists as you go, definitely. The actual physical shopping, that's actually something that I really struggle with. And I can imagine it's probably similar on your side. I found that supermarkets make me really sick. They're just probably one of your worst experiences. The noise, the light, the space, the chemicals that they use in some of the produce and on some of the aisles, and then you've got the people and the thinking, and when you combine all of that together, it's not a great experience. What I have, because I'm quite lucky, I've managed to not do that task anymore. And family members go for me if I do need something. But what I used to previously do was go very early in the morning. So I set a day each week and went as soon as the store opened in the morning. As soon as they open their doors, surprise, no one else is there. So I tried to go at these really, really quiet times. One of our major chain stores in New Zealand here is now doing a quiet hour, which is where they're starting to turn down the lights. They're not going to be stocking shelves. They're turning down the music. They're trying to make the store a lot quieter for people with health conditions and concerns, so that they can actually go and do their shopping. So they've been trialing that for a little while, and they've rolled them out to all stores. So it would be good to look out for if supermarkets or department stores over there do that kind of thing, a quiet hour.
Yeah, and I request that. There's always a management at every place, and just say this is something, especially for I would think that parents with autistic children, that would be a tremendous help. Yeah, and especially if you have migraine issues, being in fluorescent lights with flickering, I could really see that being something that could take off here in the States. I've never heard of it, but that would be a great thing to request.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. They've just been calling it the quiet hour. So they're just, a bit more aware of the environment and making it a bit more suitable for a range of people, which I really like. And it's been successful here, which is great.
I could definitely see why.
Yeah. You talked previously about the Amazon delivery side of things. And it's not the best option for the environment, but as an individual needing food for your health, your nutrition and well-being, it's a really good option. So getting food, getting items delivered to your house so that you don't actually have to go out and drive and carry and lift and walk can be a fantastic option for saving your energy for other things, such as preparing the meal. So if you can get things delivered, I just think is a great option. Have it delivered to your door. Have them carry your bags in if they will. It's just a fantastic way that we can get around some of these health issues for us.
I mean, that's such the incredible high wire act we're all walking, that if we're environmentalists or we care about workers' rights, and then we also need the help. It's such an unfair double knot that we're all in if we really care about these issues. But these things are made to help us, like plastic straws or the delivery service, these are things that we really do need. And I have to say, it's been tremendous to be able to have, like, because I have all of these lovely little creatures in my house who require 50-pound bags of food. And there's no way I'm going to, even if a kind person puts it in my car, I have to get home and take it back out again. So these little creatures are very happy that there's delivery service.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good way to plan during the week. Like if you are sort of doing a full grocery order online, you can sort of add to it in bits and pieces without having to sit down and do it all at once. So it can be a good way to save energy, but also sort of set reminders for yourself if you do it as you find you need an item. So it can be a really good way.
Decision fatigue. Like if you're already standing and exhausted and you're trying to be like, does this have extra sugar? Does this have something I'm allergic to? And you're like standing there for like 20 minutes trying to figure out which like thing you could buy without like causing more problems with whatever. Like it's really nicer to be able to see the full ingredient list while you're sitting down. And if you have multiple family members, they can add to the list. It's really a great, and you don't have to worry about like last minute purchases. Like, I found it very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got, at this point, you've got an idea of what you're cooking. You've actually got it ordered and delivered to your home, hopefully, or you have been able to go and pick it up in some form. The cooking, the actual preparing and cooking it's such a physical task.
It is. But I just want to say one other thing about the getting the food. If you feel like walking around is hard, most of the places have scooters. Do not be embarrassed. Use scooters. If you use the not wheelchair, I'm so sorry. If you're using the cart as a walker, join the club. If you're able to get disability placard, try to go early in the morning. That's when most of the disability spaces are open. If you go to Trader Joe's after 9 a.m. and you're trying to find a disability parking space, may the higher powers be with you. So those are my little quick tips for how to get everything done fast. Or if you go with someone, hand half the list over and tell them to start circling around, and by the time you get to the front, it's all done.
Nice.
There we go. Those are the family tips. So moving into cooking,
it's for the majority of people, they don't realize how physical cooking can actually be. You're often standing for long periods of time in front of a hot stove, which is just really tricky, and it's really draining. With the main meal of the day being at night time, you've often had probably quite a long day. You're quite fatigued at that point of day, especially with people who are working during the day, having a full day, then coming home to cook a meal. It is actually a really draining, really difficult task to do. So I just wanted to acknowledge that a lot of people just sort of say dinner's like, you just cook it, it's fine. But it's actually a really tricky task to do. I really like using a perching stool in the kitchen. So you can just buy them in the shops or in the disability shops, and it's a higher stool that's on an angle, so you can sit back on it, so you're taking the weight off your legs, but your legs are still touching the ground. So that would be for people who are quite mobile, or maybe using a chair in the kitchen if you're able to get up and down easily enough. Actually using a chair to rest on. Some people may have like where you put bar stools, and so it's like a counter that you can sit at. That can be quite good for sitting down to prepare things like chopping vegetables, mixing stuff. So when you're in the kitchen, you don't always have to be standing. So you can change your position and actually sit down and have a rest for a little while if you need it. So you don't have to stand to do things. Is probably one of my main points there.
I've also found that getting one of those gel pads, if you're going to like really just go all the way for a meal, like having a gel pad on the floor to be able to stand on is so helpful on the joints. If that's something that you are in for. I use a wheelchair a lot of the times, and my kitchen is not set up for wheelchair. So meal prep at the dining room table works well because I can chop from the wheelchair. I can do a lot of other things. And there's so many like really cool little like products that people make fun of, like the egg cooker or the rice cooker that people make fun of, like, how lazy are you people? It's like, those were not meant for you healthy people. These are meant for us, like, who have problems. Like, these are indispensable for some of us who have wrist issues. Like,
definitely. So anything like that you can find to make your life easier is fantastic. The electric can openers. There's a few different types. You can get the big machine ones or the ones that you clip on the top with a battery and they run around. Those are quite easy to find now, which is great.
Again, you know, like Amazon, as much as it drives me nuts because I am so for workers' rights and the environmental issues with how they pack things, it all drives me insane. But I have to say, like, it's there's products on there I can't just go out and get. So
definitely.
Do you have like favorite appliances for the kitchen that really help you out or that you recommend for people?
I'm just having a think. I do really like the slow cookers.
Oh my God, yes.
Something that, you can put on in the morning. You can just leave. You come home and your meat's cooked and your vegetables are cooked. Like, you can't get any better than that.
No. And like we all have, well, most of us have better energy in the mornings. So to be able to just throw ingredients in the morning and just start the slow cooker, I mean, I just made like butter chicken, which is, I am an Indian food fanatic, and it was so easy, fast, just throw stuff in, and we didn't need takeout. It was fantastic.
Definitely. So things like that are going to make life a little bit easier. Definitely. I do see a lot of clients after injuries, so I often recommend the cutting boards. So you can get cutting boards that suction onto your bench.
Okay, that's brilliant. Where do I find this?
So they don't move around. I'm not sure if they've got a specific name. I will.
You know what? If you could just put together a linked up list with Amazon, I will just publish it, and I'll also put a whole thing in the show notes. So head over to show notes if you're listening to this, and we will have like some recipes that are pretty easy. This will come out later because I'm gonna do a whole bunch of linking to easier things. I also have the Pinterest board that's the Invisible Not Broken Pinterest board, and I'll have a whole bunch of like easy ways to feed yourself with ideas.
Perfect. So the cutting board, it is just called a cutting board, so I'll have to look for it. But suctions onto the bench, so then it doesn't move around, which I love. And it has spikes on the top, which sounds slightly weird, but what happens is you can put your vegetables on the spikes, so your vegetable doesn't move around when you're cutting it. So it just makes things a little bit safer when you're using a sharp knife and not able to put full pressure to hold the vegetable down. So I really like those in terms of safety. Using a knife, like slipping and cutting yourself, is really not safe, not a good idea. So these cutting boards are specially designed to assist with that kind of thing. So I will find where you can get those because they're great. And anything, you can get these, they're like jar grips to help you open up jars. And so instead of having to actually grip with your fingers, which is a really hard position to be in for opening jars, it gives you like a handle. So you actually have some leverage to open the tops of jars. And I really like those because things often come in jars, especially if you're wanting to make sandwiches or something simple, especially morning and lunch meals. So being able to open jars is really important.
Yeah, I like, especially for like Ehlers Danlos people, like we dislocate our wrists so easily. So having that help is lovely.
Yep, definitely. So there is lots of different adaptive kitchen tools that you can get. So just having a bit of a look around Amazon and seeing what they actually have can be a really good idea. In terms of the cognitive processing of cooking, unless you're using a slow cooker, you often have a lot going on. So you might have something on the stove, something in the oven. Now, you could have an extra pot on the stove. I use timers. So whether it's on my phone, whether it's a kitchen timer that you spin around, just using a timer, so you're not having to remember, when did I put that on? How long was I meant to cook that for? When's that pot coming off? So if you can use little reminders like that, just to take away some of the task, make it a little bit easier. And then if you do forget, at least you're not burning dinner.
That's a great thing about smartphones, is to be able to, okay Google or Hey Siri, or whatever you were using to go, just 5-minute timer is so important.
Yeah, definitely. We've got an Amazon Alexa in the kitchen. So we use her to set the timers, and she can do multiple timers. It's quite handy. To make sure that we're actually cooking for the right length of time and boiling things for the right length of time. So use technology. Wherever you can.
They're spying on us anyway. You might as well get some benefits, right?
Yep.
So my mom tip of the day, because I have smalls and really sick, I have a section in my refrigerator that can be reached easily. And it's a pull-out thing that I keep all of the easy-to-do dinners, like the frozen meatballs from Trader Joe's, the frozen turkey corn dogs, whatever they're willing to eat for that week. I have that on that shelf, and they can just go into the toaster oven. So even at 8 years old, 6 years old, they were able to make their own dinners when I couldn't stand up, and they could just throw that onto the little toaster sheet and just start the toaster. I mean, it's not ideal. I'm sure I'm not winning Mother of the Year award, but children got that. So.
Yep, it's working. Yep, that's such a good idea. So having things in reach for them. Yeah. Perfect.
And to be able to, you can use your toaster to make dinner. If everything else is wrong, toasters do absolutely make full dinners.
Yep. So use, and I think that's a really good point that you've just made there. So I think traditionally we think that dinner is meat, 3 vegetables, you've got your potato. That's all changing now. And I know we still want to say on the healthy, nutritious side of things, but it doesn't have to be meat and 3 veg. You can be creative with your meals, and you don't have to have a full meal every night. If you're not hungry and you're not feeding others, or if others aren't hungry, is there other simpler options, like putting something in the toaster oven, or having a different type of meal? Instead of having a full meal, could you have peanut butter on toast, or something that's really simple that's going to give you a little bit of food, but maybe not take up all of your energy? So maybe we need to rethink about what the traditions actually are for cooking meals, and does it need to be like that? Slow cooking.
Yeah, meals. And there's plenty of vegetarian and vegan options out there that are really, it's never been more accessible for that. I have, we get a salad that's already pre-washed, pre-made salad, and I just get huge bits of that. And then my husband will cook, we're not vegetarian or vegan. My husband will cook up a thing of steak or chicken for me on Sundays. And that goes into a little glass Tupperware container in the refrigerator. So if I can get to the refrigerator for lunch, I can just throw salad and a protein on it, and I'm done. Those things are just really helpful to have.
Yeah, definitely. Make it simple and keep it simple.
Yeah.
We don't need lots of, don't need all this technical stuff, just something that's easy for you to do. When I was working full time, I was getting they're called microwave meals, but they've actually evolved a bit since that point in time. So there are companies that actually make good, nutritious food that they then freeze and send to you. And that was just an option that I had to look at because I wasn't able to work full time and come home and make dinner. It just wasn't an option. So I had to look at what else was out there. And there is options, which is really good.
So lucky to have like a partner and children who can make dinner. It definitely helps having the extra help here. And then I also have a mini farmstead here on a little 6,000 square foot suburban plot, and I have chickens. So if I can't get to the store, I have eggs already, and they're like the easiest creatures to keep, and they're hilarious. If that's a possibility for people, I also have like an indoor garden where I have my my salad growing as well, so I could just snip off leaves inside.
Yep, I love those indoor gardens. Or depending on the weather where you are, can you grow like a garden on the deck in the sun? There's easy ways to grow small gardens that actually will provide you with some good food.
And very cheap. You can make your own little microgreen thing out of old takeout boxes. You just put like 2 little holes, grab some soil and some seeds, and you just water it, and you get these little microgreens you can snip.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's a good way of having some fresh food.
It's really there's a lot of food deserts out there where there's just not accessibility to fruits and vegetables and good food, but there might be space. Like if you have an apartment complex, you might even be able to get an okay to do an interior courtyard small farm, and there are ways to do that for almost no money. Like you can use hay bales to grow things out of. Like there's so many options, and I'll have some of them on the show notes.
Yeah.
It's my way of being sustainable even when I can't get out.
Yes. Yeah. Making it accessible is great.
And financially accessible too, because there's a lot of options. Like IKEA is looking at these like great things, but I'm like, this is really out of a price range. Like there are ways to do this just using recycled or free materials.
Yeah. Definitely. I also like what you mentioned about sharing the cooking with other people in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at whether, are you the best person to be actually cooking these meals? Are there other people in the house that can help? You've said it exactly, that children can actually help with some of this stuff. Especially as they get slightly older, they are able to do some of the tasks. So are you able to get others in your house to actually help complete parts of the task, or all the task would be even better?
I just did an interview with an amazing woman, and she was telling me that she and her husband, they used to do meal prep, but it was only one meal, and they get sick of it by day 3. So they got in touch with some friends, and they created a meal group club. And so on like one day a week, they would all get together and they would just exchange. So they had a different meal every day of the week, and you did the same amount of work. I thought that was a really neat way to kind of expand your community.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Yeah, sharing and getting to know other people. Yeah, definitely. And with the cooking, getting everything out. Where I'm going with this is getting all your food items out onto the bench and getting all your utensils out onto the bench. So you're not having to go and look for everything during the process of cooking. So sometimes that can save energy. It's going to look a little bit messy. But what I generally do is get all the ingredients out onto the bench, and as I use each one, put it away, if that's where your energy sort of sits, or just doing it in one lot. So you've got everything out, and then later on you put everything away. So rather than getting up and down or moving around a lot, if that's more difficult, just doing it in one sort of lot can sometimes save energy.
So I have a question for you, and if you don't have a ready answer for this, no worries. But I use there's the wheelchair I use a lot of the time, and that is not an electric wheelchair. And I also use double canes a lot, and so that leaves you with no hands to get from kitchen to. How would you say to be able to like move your food when you can't use your hands to grab food?
It's really tricky, and I don't have an ideal answer for you with that. Wheelchairs, possibly using a tray on your knees. It depends on how much movement there's going to be, because that's not going to be suitable for glasses of water and liquid. Because
but a very funny YouTube video that would be hilarious. Like I learned that the hard way. The first day I had my wheelchair, I went to Starbucks and like I wheeled in, and this is like what happens when you don't live a life, you know, and you suddenly are in that life. And I'm like, how do I get the coffee to my chair? Like I was completely, by the way, you put it between your knees and you just hope that you don't have anything to roll over. But it's just definitely one of those things that you don't consider until you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not an area that I've got a lot of knowledge on with the wheelchairs, but you can get like they're trays on wheels, and so like they're little they've just got a couple of shelves. They're just little square trays, and they've actually got 4 wheels on the bottom with a little handle. So for people on crutches or who aren't very steady with carrying things, putting the food and the drink onto a tray with wheels that you can push it can definitely help things if you're not wanting to drop things.
So I am even in a wheelchair and I don't have a good answer for this. So if you are a wheelchair user or a cane user and you are listening to this going, I have the best answer, please help me out. Put the comment below. Let me know how you're doing this. Aside from like training my wolf or my pug how to carry it, I am open for ideas.
Yep, definitely. Going on to the eating part of the meal, I like to remind people to eat mindfully. So eating a little bit slower, being aware of what you're eating, that can be really important, so that how full you're sort of feeling, the message gets through to your brain. So definitely being aware of what you're eating and not just eating really quickly can be beneficial. Holding a knife and fork can be really tricky, especially on those painful days. You can buy built up utensils. So rather than just the thin knife and fork that you really have to grip with your hand, you can actually buy knives and forks that are built up with either soft materials or harder materials, so that your grip actually sits a lot wider on it. So that can make things a little bit easier for people. You can also get tubing which fits over your existing utensils, which can be really good. So you don't have to just hold on to your knife and fork.
There's also those spoons that stay steady. They're like that's all, folks. Gyroscopic spoons that are really awesome.
Yep, definitely. You can get spoons and forks at different angles. So instead of having the fork and you're holding it and it's sticking out directly straight, you can get ones that are bent on an angle, so that you're instead of having to turn your wrist to eat, it sort of just changes your wrist movement a little bit, so you can just eat directly without having to rotate your arm and your wrist. I have heard of people just bending their spoons and forks in that direction.
That's pretty brilliant too. There's so many things that you're like, I should buy a product for that, and then someone's like, but you could modify and my husband just brought that up. We were looking at the plastic bags for the produce, and I was really frustrated at like going to farmers markets or to the store and like, okay, I don't want to use more plastic bags. So it's like, oh, well, to buy the mesh are like up to $75 for 3 of the bags. Like, this is insane. And he brought up the small little fact that plastic bags were invented so we could use them over and over again. We already had plastic bags from our last trip. We could use them till they fall apart. It's now been 20 visits to the farmer's market since he brought this up. We're using the same bag still. So if you'd like to use that little point, that is actually why the plastic bags were invented, was so that we wouldn't keep using paper bags over and over again, because the plastics, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
It does. It definitely makes sense. Yep. And with eating, sit somewhere that you're comfortable. Hopefully you have sort of a chair or a dining room chair, or somewhere where you are actually comfortable, so that you're eating in a comfortable, quite supported position. So rather than sort of perching on a stool or standing and perching in your kitchen, actually sit down and eat at a table is ideal, but I haven't done that for years because I didn't have a dining room table for years. So you can always find a comfortable position to eat in.
That's very, very key, is to make sure, like for a lot of us, we need to have like elbow support while we eat. And anyone who's disabled knows just how important that is when you go to a restaurant and you realize that there is no seating that will work for you. Yesterday I had that experience going from like 2 different coffee shops because there was no actual wheelchair seating. And like the tables were like those really cool, like hipster kind of like high tables where you had to sit in a chair where your feet dangle, and there was I would have to have like the world's longest arms to put my coffee cup on the table, like so you all know, if you're out in the world, how important that is to have that good seating.
Be comfortable if you can. Definitely.
Well, we've hit like an hour, and I'm hoping you will come back on again next month to talk about a new issue. If you're listening to this and you have an issue you want us to go over for you, we will do our best. If you are listening to this and you're like, these two are full of it, I have all the answers on how to be a spoonie and eat properly, please help us out. Comment below, share the episode with your friends, your family, your social community. We'd love to get as many answers as possible to this issue. Worldwide, this is the thing that binds us all together. We are all trying to figure this out, no matter who and what you are. So please comment below. Thank you so much, Kimberlea, for coming back on. You're so generous with your time. I'm hoping you become a permanent part. Oh, we love it. So everyone, next week, I'm sure Eva is going to give us a healthcare professional who's awesome. So take a listen to that. And hey, it's been a crazy news week. So be kind, and that means to yourself and to the community. Be gentle. That means absolutely be gentle with yourself. Be as kind and gentle to yourself and to the other stressed out humans around you, and be a badass, because we really have to be. So in whatever way that looks like for you to be what you need to be, go for it. Have a great week, everyone.